Welcome back to American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1060 WMEL. And folks, we're online worldwide at 1060WMEL.com. Don't forget to check out the Facebook pages, both AVET Project, American Warrior Radio, Benefits for Veterans, COA and BOAS have their own page. There's lots of good stuff going on online. We are celebrating. This is Happy Memorial Day. It seems kind of weird to say happy when it's supposed to be a reverent date. We've talked about this before also. The fact that come Veterans Day, in the middle of winter, it's November, it's kind of maybe gray out and cold, and that's when you should have a celebration. You know, Memorial Day, yeah, it's the start of the summer, the pools are opening, everybody has their first big barbecue and what have you. But really, I'd like to see the two, at least the attitudes reversed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, exactly. But I want to comment on your saying it's in the middle of winter and it's cold and gray, and I hope that's way further north from here than here, because in November it's usually pretty warm.
Yeah, well, again, we're on the Space Coast of Florida, but all y'all listeners out there in the great United States, let's say from, I don't know, it gets cold in November in Texas and Tennessee. What are you pushing me for?
And Titusville.
I guess I'm not moving fast enough here. But it is. It's Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us here. And honestly, this time of the month, every month, we bring you a special segment, which is Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country with Dr. Scott Fairchild. Go ahead and cue that music, Vince. Oh man, I love that theme song you got, Doc.
It's excellent. It's excellent. And Soldier Heart does a great job with it. You know, on that road to recovery, we're actually so tickled to sponsor his video on the website. I show it to so many patients, and they get so much out of it. You know, on the road to recovery also, we need to talk today a little bit about some of the physical aspects that all of this stress can have on you and your family. And that's so important so that we're not here next year memorializing you. It is so important. And so as we talk about the physical aspects of stress, there's so much research that shows us that when we're psychologically distressed, that it has an impact on us physically. And I often say that I could sit down with a combat veteran and I could write up their physical section without having to talk to them. Because, you know, the classic things we see from stress on this human body is we see elevated cholesterol. We see elevated triglycerides. We see prostate problems. We see tinnitus or ringing in the ears. We notice that there are hearing problems at times from explosions. We notice that when the cortisol is released in the body and it causes that fight or flight reaction, it's kind of like running your body in first gear all the time. And it wears out. Those gears wear out.
Yeah.
Absolutely, those gears wear out. And so you may end up with some physical reactions like insomnia, sleep apnea. You can't breathe. You can't function throughout the night. You may end up with fatigue, where you feel like there's Velcro on your butt and Velcro on the couch, and you can't get up off of it. You can end up with hyperactivity. So many people keep themselves busy to avoid the emotions and wear themselves out. A lot of our veterans will have 3 or 4 jobs. Then, unfortunately, when you retire, all of that old stuff catches up with you like a tsunami wave. So it's very important to stay healthy, particularly if you've been a combat veteran and you've been exposed to a magnitude of stress.
And you're talking about that word stress, and it really does. It's kind of a blanket term that covers all kinds of ways, and it can manifest itself in so many different ways. But when it comes to the warfighter, we know the conditions that they fought under and served under, but it also has to impact the family, correct?
Oh, it has a serious impact on the family because that warfighter with all of that stress internalized is going to have physical problems, but emotionally is also going to explode. It's like letting a grenade loose in your living room every night when daddy or mommy comes home. And the family feels the impact of it. You know, children witnessing their parents physically fighting, children witnessing the yelling and the screaming. All of those things then set the tone for that child to be an anxious child, that child to be a depressed child, that child to be biting on their fingernails, to have school refusal, to have everything right down to projectile vomiting. So it's so important to reduce the impact of it. And one way to do that is not to stuff it in the closet, is to be able to find ways. And, AVET Project does a great job in having retreats. When they have retreats, families come together, military families come together, and they release that energy in a positive way. And they talk with each other. And so much therapy takes place, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it. The groups sit down and talk about this and talk about that, and they're letting it out. And that's the only way. It's kind of like
they're comfortable doing it because it's a PR&R, Project Recuperation Reintegration Retreats, is very relaxed. It's not, well, it's somewhat regimented, but we go with the flow. It's very flexible, and like you said, they don't even know it's happening, and yet there they are in the middle of it.
They are, and so many of them report how much joy and how much relief they get out of it. And also, this last PR&R we focused on celebrating the successes. I mean,
good point.
Yeah, all too often, I think we spend a lot of time saying post-traumatic stress disorder. It's bad, 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 bad. And I think it's really important to celebrate the successes. One person having been off a drug for 8 months, another person having partaken in hyperbaric oxygen treatment in Colorado and doing better as a result of it. Another person who's been free of drugs since the cruise. I mean, these are important success stories. And they all came up to me individually and told me that, but I wanted them to hear it from each other. And so in group, we asked them to share some of their successes. And it's so very important to share those successes.
And I want to interject there. Glenn, do you recall the very first time as a service officer for the county for 20 plus years working a PTSD claim? Do you remember your first one?
Yeah, I do. And I actually had to put the person off a little bit and go study myself on what PTSD was and what the symptoms were and the problems caused by it, so that I could deal effectively with the person, not just to file a claim, because you don't just file a claim when you're helping a veteran. You're helping the veteran.
Exactly. And that's an important distinction also, because as they come together with group, you're talking about sharing the positives. Having success in a disability benefits claim situation can really inspire those around them that, hey, I'm going to persevere. It worked for you. You stuck with it with an accredited rep like Glenn until you saw it through to the end and you had some success.
That claims process is so critical. And a lot of people out there think, well, it's all dollars and cents. It's not that at all. So many people, after they get their disability checks or after it appears in their bank before they even get the notification, so many of the people say, I looked at the money or the back pay, and I was happy for about 15 minutes or so. And after that, I realized I still had PTSD. But what's so meaningful for them, for most of the people that I work with, what is so meaningful is that someone in an organization, someone in a bureaucracy, someone has recognized my sacrifice. That means more. It's priceless. As I would say in the commercial, it's priceless. It means so much more than the dollars and cents to be recognized.
Yeah, well, as a Vietnam veteran, I can tell you it was many years before people started telling me thank you for your service.
Correct.
Right, and that's just a big part of it, to finally, the achievement of having succeeded, and like you said, actually have this big monster called the VA acknowledge that, yeah, okay, we accept the fact that doctors have diagnosed you with this and you're dealing with this, and now let's get on with it. And it's a stepping stone. It isn't the be-all to end-all.
Right. It certainly is. And, for those of you in our listening audience are saying, yeah, I've got this stress every day, and what do I do about it? Well, first of all, surround yourself with some friends. Those friends that we always say, the little cliche is don't just say something, stand there. Sometimes people need to just be there for you. Don't just say something, stand there. Be with you, support you. Find some solid friends like that. Yes, it can be at the VFW, but hopefully it doesn't always have to be over alcohol, drowning sorrows. Hopefully it can be just talking, going to the beach, doing activities like the healing of the vets with the Operation Surf Project that was sponsored by the whole program here. And so, to have those things, those opportunities to be physically active and to get it out, to have things like the AVET project sponsored. I mean, the guys out there on the surfboards learning how to surf, trained by, the big guys, and that is so meaningful and it's so special. And you say, well, I'm at home and I can't do all of that. What can I do? So, very important, pencil and paper. Number one, do keep your medical appointments. And I realize that's harder in this day and age with insurance as crazy as it is. Do keep your medical appointments. Get a physician or a nurse or a PA that you're comfortable with. Do follow up on your checks. I tell my groups every time I do them, I say, make sure you get your heart checked. It's your motor. Without your heart, you're not going to keep going. And all of this stress has its impact directly on the heart. So make sure you have the heart checks. Make sure you go participate in the treadmills. Make sure, if you need it, that you get the high-speed CAT scan of the heart. Make sure, if your doctor indicates, even that you get a catheterization to find out what's going on. Are there some blockages inside of your heart? Make sure you get it checked. And one that's rather unpopular with, I think, about anyone is that colonoscopy. But, you've got to get it done, and they say start at 50. If you've been stressed, start at 35 or 40. Get it checked early. I have, so many friends. Right now I can name 5 people who are experiencing colorectal cancer in various stages. And you do not want to be one of those, believe me. You do not want to be one of those. The treatment is extremely painful and difficult, and the prognosis is not good in a number of cases. So catching it early is very important. Get those colonoscopies done. Also, focus on your exercise and your diet. It's so important to be able to get that exercise in a minimum of 3 times a week. A good workout, it doesn't mean, like the one lady said, oh, I went to the gym today and I worked out for 4 minutes and I almost broke out in a sweat. No, that's not the way it goes. Get in there and put in a good hour. Get that physical exercise, alternated also with relaxation. An opportunity to relax, an opportunity to use things like Alpha Stim, an opportunity to come down and use yoga. All of those things are very important.
Tell them what Alpha Stim is again, Doc.
That Alpha Stim is a little tool that has been amazing. Instead of having to take drugs and medications, this has shown to be more effective than antidepressants for depression, more effective than Zoloft and Wellbutrin. It has been shown to be more effective than Ativan and Xanax for anxiety. It treats anxiety, and it has been more effective for than 2 other drugs for insomnia. So it helps you get to sleep as well. And I had a double vet come in the other day, and you're saying, what is a double vet? Okay, this is a veterinarian who is a veteran.
A vet.
He's a vet.
That's a vet.
And, we actually came to the point where we terminated our treatment. He's been participating for quite some time. He's getting his benefits. His relationship is doing much better. He has been religious.
Good work, Doc.
He's been religious about using his Alpha Stim. And he said, you know what? My brain, I think, is improving because I need less and less of my Alpha Stim. He said, now I just put it on 2 minutes a day instead of the proverbial 20 minutes or 50 minutes. And so he said, I've got it handy in case I ever need it. But he said, life is going well for me. So, you can make progress and you can make changes. And it's so important to do that.
And you don't have to do it all at once. You got to take... Your initial step is getting up off your butt, getting out of your head, and saying, I've got to make some changes. You mentioned something about the heart disease, though, and I got to share with everybody out there, and a lot of you may know this, but there is a causal connection between a neuropsychiatric disorder, whether it's PTSD, depression, anxiety, and the onset of some sort of cardiac disorder, some sort of heart disease. There's a direct relationship, and the VA recognizes this so long as there's the medical inference and the research done and the diagnosis made to make that causal connection.
Yeah, it's another case of where you need to get, in that case, your cardiologist to draw a connection from A to B, A being your post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, whatever, to your heart condition, and saying that it's as likely as not, that's the minimum standard of proof, it's as likely as not that your current, whatever your cardiac problem is, heart condition is caused by your association with all this stress.
Yeah, and that's the
Which
key
is
there, the
which
stress.
is back to your military.
It is, and it's so important, Glenn. I love those words. It is just as likely as not, which essentially applies 51%. I mean, it is just as likely as not. And you know, it tickles me because this week I got involved with a national service officer over in St. Petersburg, and she contacted me and said she had talked to one of the people who, the adjudicators. They're the people who determine your claims, and she said, you know, he likes everything you wrote, but you wrote that this person's symptoms were directly, or her combat experience was directly responsible for her symptoms. And she said, you know, directly responsible is kind of like 100%. But she said he wants the words just as likely as not in there. And stubborn me, I'm saying, well, you know, just as likely as not's only 51%. And I said directly, which would be 100%.
Right.
She said, Scott, you're not hearing me. He wants the words just as likely as not. We put those words in there, and a couple weeks later, the claim was approved. So it is important to see people like Glenn. It is important to see veteran service officers who know what the magic words are, because, you know, you have a valid claim, but if those magic words aren't there, they may not be processed.
Well, I hope none of my clients get that adjudicator.
I know. I tell you, that's true.
Well, and there's all sorts of different ways you can overcome the stress, and we're here on a special edition, this Memorial Day edition, 2016 of American Warrior Radio, talking with Dr. Scott Fairchild and his Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country segment. You shared the fact that it can have wide-ranging negative effects on your body, your family's life, and all this. What are some other ways that they can overcome this? I mean, healing vets through water therapy, which is the adjunct part of AVET Project's PRNR, Project Recuperation Reintegration Retreat. But you mentioned just getting out and becoming active. Maybe not an hour pounding away in a gym, but at least getting up and going, right?
At least getting active. And you know, one thing that actually in my old age even surprised me, you know, with some of our folks, we've tried medications, we've tried eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is a process.
That's EMDR?
EMDR, which releases emotional charges. We've tried all of these different things. And actually, in a couple of the folks I'm thinking of, you know, they participated in drug rehab programs and all sorts of things, and nothing seemed to work. But interestingly enough, when they got involved with the AVET project, and all of a sudden were called upon to help other veterans, wow, a big turnaround. So helping others is another very, very important way. So we're looking for all of you out there to become volunteers, because as you volunteer and help other veterans, when you get the call, it's another form of therapy that you don't even know you're getting.
And doesn't that dovetail into the Battle Buddy system? I mean, you want to share the experience with others. You've got the military mindset. Make it a team effort.
Well, that's like the PRNR the doc was talking about earlier in the show, and that you get a bunch of veterans together, and they're letting things out that they wouldn't to anybody else, because they're in with a group of combat veterans who've had similar experiences, and they feel comfortable talking about those things with them. And you know, AVET overall, that's what they're doing, is they're bringing veterans, that they don't all have to be combat veterans, they're bringing veterans together.
Yes.
And they have a special bond, you know, the battle buddy bond, if you will. They have a special bond with each other that is healing for all of the people that participate.
You know, I have a picture on my wall that shows a couple combat veterans carrying another veteran off the field of battle. You know, he's stretched out, and they've got their arms around him and carrying him off. And you know, I often point that out to my veterans, and I say, you know, we can do a lot of different things here to help, but really when it comes right down to it, it's veterans helping veterans, which is most powerful, because you get it. The other veteran gets it, and he gets your story, and he gets her story, and she gets his story. And that's what's so healing, and that's what's so important. So we at Bay Tree Behavioral Health bring together people. We bring together people for groups, and we have post-traumatic stress disorder groups.
I'm glad you're mentioning this.
We have these groups on the first and third Saturday of the month from 10:30 till noon. We also have support groups for spouses of veterans. So important. I know Kim's helped us out there before in talking with our spouses. They have so many questions, and they have so many issues. And just like the veterans, the spouses feel all alone. And when they get together with other people, they realize, wow, other people have these issues too. And I did this to help that, and I did that to help this. And before you know it, I often say that I do these groups, and I say that every time I do a group, I come away learning something from the group. Again, this last Saturday, a week ago, I took a show of hands for some of the old timers there. I said, how many of you have been coming since early on? And I had 4 or 5 hands went up. One guy had come the second or third session that we'd met the group. And I said, do you men and women realize that you have been coming to this group one Saturday a month for the last 12 years?
Wow.
They said, we won't miss it because this is home. These people on my left and on my right understand. I personally, as a clinician, would submit that the healing power of veterans helping veterans, the message and the priority that AVET Project puts on that message is the most powerful healing there is out there.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of what that summarizes the point I was trying to get across. And Doc, tell them how they might get enrolled in one of these groups if they feel the need for that.
They can check out the BayTreeBehavioralHealth.com website, and all the information will be there as well as the phone numbers, which are 321-253-8887. Feel free to call if you want to talk with me directly. Feel free to leave a message for me, and I will get back to you. It might not be that afternoon or that day unless it's an emergency, but I will get back to you and respond to your question.
Great.
Now I want to share. Now we're talking in an uplifting way, but this is Memorial Day. This is Memorial Day weekend. We know in this country, we do in this studio, know that we're losing 22 plus veterans a day to suicide. They've given up.
Yeah.
You know, what's your old motto?
Well, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Okay, so permanent solution, temporary problem. We can't get that across to them, and they do just fall out, and they're going to take their own lives. What can we offer them?
Well, one thing we can offer them is call the Veterans Crisis Line, and that's at 1-800-273-8255. Press 1 if you're a veteran. And let me give you that number again. Get that pencil out this time.
And we'll share it at the end here in a minute, but go ahead.
1-800-273-8255. Press 1.
So, Doc, with the whole losing all sense of hope, they've lost faith, they've given up, and they're going to take their own lives by whatever means. 22 plus a day, and we know the number is much higher.
Yes.
What's your little nugget that they can take away from this episode?
Well, it's so important. It's so important to stay connected. And as other veterans, it's so important to keep your radar on, to be able to look out for these individuals, to be able to reach out to them, to talk with them, to let them know that there is hope. And I love what Soldier Hard does with the Spartan Pledge. He has a pledge that folks come up, they take the pledge, and I think if you go to his website and type in Spartan Pledge, you will see it there. So we want to get as many veterans possible to take that Spartan Pledge because, as I understand it, no one who has taken the Spartan Pledge has taken their own life. Wow. And that is beautiful, and that is phenomenal, and that, again, is therapy without the bottle, without a bottle of medicine.
Well, you're
or without a bottle of alcohol.
That's correct.
Yeah, the self-medicating, but you're phenomenal, Doc, and thank you so much for that. We always reiterate this at the end of every episode, but it's not just for the warfighter. If you know somebody that's in crisis, if you're a family member, heck, if you're the child and you're dealing with mom or dad's combat stress and it's too much for you, what can they do, Glenn?
Call 1-800-273-8255, and that's the Veterans Crisis Line, and they have specially trained counselors there to talk to you on the phone and get help to you if you need it right then.
And they do deliver. We've got experience with it. It does work. So we want to give you the number again. Scratch it down.
1-800-273-8255. Press 1. And as always, don't forget, thank a vet.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody.